I don't know. I kind of thought I might give it just some talks about meditation, but then I don't know. I always, anytime I talk about meditation, I always want to talk about the 3 words that strike the vital point. I don't know. That's how I think about dzogchen, and I don't know. It's just the easiest way to talk about things for me. I usually like this book. I mean, this is a book I always turn to, and it's The Golden Letters, the 3 statements of Garab Dorje, the first teacher of dzogchen, together with a commentary by Patro Rinpoche entitled The Special Teaching of the Wise and Glorious King. Forward by Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche. Translation, introduction, and commentaries by John Murden Reynolds. Published by Snow Lion, which is Shambhala, a subsidiary of Shambhala. There's no restrictions in this book, you know. I like this translation of the root text better. There's a restriction on this that you have pointing out instructions and Vajrayana transmission. The text here is translated by Eric Schmidt of student of Tukauga, and they have a publishing house which is fabulous, Rangjung Yeshe Publications. He translated the root text. I like that translation better in a way, but there's nothing wrong with this translation, and I don't know, the commentaries. This John Reynolds does a fabulous job on the commentaries, I think. You know, not that Dogal Kinsey Rinpoche doesn't do a fabulous job on the commentaries as well. There's a lot of books. There's a lot of books on this topic. It's kind of the root text of dzogchen. It's the first text. Garab Dorje is he's the equivalent of Tilopa in the Karmakagyu. For the Nyingmas, he's the human who first received these teachings from the Dharmakaya Buddha, Samantabhadra, and transmitted them to his student, Manjusramitra. And this particular teaching was given at the time of his death, when he, in rainbow body, I would guess you would say, arose into the sky and gave these teachings to Manjusramitra, who was overcome in many ways by his teachers, Parinirvana, but also enlightened by his teaching he gave. So, I don't know, I've talked a lot in my previous stuff about the earlier points on the path, bringing oneself along up to a point. It's a pretty, maybe, I don't know, lofty level, but that's a little bit like dzogchen. Dzogchen kind of takes, dzogchen is liable to start talking to you at a pretty lofty level. I don't know, depending on or a very simple level, but that's the deal, man. It's very simple. It's very simple. It's very simple. You can't like start at the top of the mountain necessarily, but dzogchen wants to take you to the top of the mountain and show you the scenery. And, maybe bring you one step at a time, but there's a tendency in dzogchen to show you the big picture. Say, now, this is probably a good place for you to start in a way, but you see where you're going, and you can go straight there. More so than in Mahamudra, I mean, Buddhism is a non-yana system, and there's something unique about dzogchen in the sense that if you have what it takes, it can take you straight to the top. It doesn't look down on anything that came before, but everything is like you transcend. The level below, once you transcend, looks like it's a lot of work. It's not about avoiding that work, it's just about transcending, really. It's just about, at whatever level it makes sense to you, you do the work and you may transcend to a higher level and then whatever, go on and on and on. Or you may pick up this book and it just kind of shows you something. It doesn't mean you shouldn't go back to a certain level. But there may be times when you just get it. But dzogchen has a tendency to show you the big picture. Show you that it's simplicity itself and there's nothing to be done. And if you can get that, it's good. But it's not. It's going to help you. It's going to help you. It's going to help you at every stage to see the simplicity and the just waking up. That's it. I think it'll make sense. I don't know, it always makes sense to me. It starts out, there's 3 words that strike the vital point, but it's kind of view, meditation, fruition, which is the same as everything else. The special thing about dzogchen is when you get the view, you're at the fruition. Particularly if you practice the meditation, But like once you grasp the view, you're already at the fruition. The fruition is contained within the view and the meditation. Provides the engine to make all that happen, But it's when you realize the view, that's transcending. So, the first word that strikes the vital point is to deepen your understanding of the view. Resolve the view. Just the more you practice and study and meditate, there's three aspects to mind, let's say. There's what's called SIMS. SIMS is the thinking mind, the mind that's thinking, the mind that's active and clinging to thoughts at some level, you know, there's less or more, but essentially you're thinking and you're clinging to those thoughts. Moving mind, which doesn't have to be caught up in clinging, doesn't have to be, but it's a good chance it is, you know. And then there's Rigpa. You know, there's something called dull meditation, which is easily confused with Rigpa. There's a certain meditative state which is dull, which is not Rigpa, but it's commonly misconstrued as Rigpa. People are often confused. That's the main reason you need a teacher. I mean, you know, there's 1,000 reasons you need a teacher. There's 1,000 million traps that you can fall into. You need to understand about those traps. You know, you need to be taught about those traps. You need your teacher to point this out to you. You need a teacher, man. You need a teacher. You need a teacher. You need a teacher. You need a teacher. Or you'll fall into a trap. You'll fall into a dull, not a lot of thoughts, but dull. And they'll think that's Rigpa, you know, and you got a problem there. That doesn't mean that Rigpa is something difficult. Rigpa is if you meditate, you're liable to experience a momentary, or probably won't last very long, probably be very short. It's not a given. It's not a given. If you do enough meditation, you can experience short moments of clarity. It's non-thought. It's not created by you. It's uncreated. It's just you have Rigpa in you, and if you create the right conditions, Rigpa was there already. Rigpa's the main thing there to begin with, so it just, the other stuff settles down enough that Rigpa just shines through. You cannot extend it. You cannot control it. You cannot make it happen. You can create these conditions where your shamatha and your vipassana is very good, and Rigpa happens, and you won't be able to, it'll just kind of come and go, but you can pay attention to it, you can recognize it. The meaning of meditation is familiarization. That's the correct translation of what meditation is. It's becoming familiar with the nature of mind, what all the different aspects of your mind include. Becoming familiar. You just through practice, you familiarize yourself with Sims. You know what Sims is. Tiny little increments in the beginning. Rigpa appears and you begin to familiarize yourself with Rigpa, and you don't try to control it. You don't try to, now I'm going to go get some Rigpa. You just maybe let the conditions be right for Rigpa to hang around if it's going to hang around, but that's about all you can do. Not even in a sense of trying to cling to that. You don't cling to Rigpa, you don't control Rigpa, you don't manufacture Rigpa. You just familiarize yourself with Rigpa when it arises, and you are able to rest your... The whole point is to rest your mind in the nature of your mind. And when Rigpa shows up, or before or after, doesn't matter. Before, when it was Sim, you just rested your mind in the nature of your mind. And there was a technique for dealing with thoughts, which hopefully you're very clear on the technique. You know, we just practice the technique, how to deal with thoughts. And Rigpa arises, it's no different. There's not thoughts to contend with at that point, but there's grasping to contend with. There's ideas about things. We just have that kind of ego. Grasping. But you just learn to rest your mind in the nature of your mind. When it's Rigpa, it's Rigpa. When it's working with thoughts, it's working with thoughts. And Rigpa can, if you Rigpa can happen more, you know, it can even happen, doesn't have to be in meditation. Once you start to familiarize yourself with Rigpa, and you are always chasing your thoughts, it's a lot easier, you know. Rigpa can happen more. The third aspect of mind is called Alaya Vishnana, storehouse of consciousness. Everything that's ever happened to you, in particular things that stood out, it had an emotional tone to them, but everything, particularly emotional stuff is strongest, is stored in this storehouse of consciousness, and eventually it will come out, you know, maybe 3 lifetimes from now. Stuff will, probably a lot of stuff you're dealing with right now is stuff that was stored in your Alaya Vijnana 3 lifetimes ago. That's just how it works. Everything comes out of the Alaya Vijnana, but it's not Rigpa, it's more of a doll. It's more along the lines of the doll. So, the first word or phrase, words, first vital point is resolving the view. The view can change, you know. The view that you're taught at the very beginning is the view, but it's at each level you're taught the view, but the view has changed a little. It changes a little. You know, there's a We could sit here for 10,000 hours talking about the view. That's what you do in the beginning. You study, and everything is teaching the view. And you're refining your understanding of the view. Really, with view is how do we familiarize ourselves in meditation with them? How do we rest our mind in the nature of our mind? That's the view. How do I rest my mind in the nature of my mind? That's the view. I would say, well, you could say, the union of appearance and emptiness suffused with knowing. That's the view. That's a pretty high understanding of the view. That's very high. Very high. This is a good view you can use, I think, is alternating between shamatha and vipassana. And in this case, it's like a spiraling upward. But each time we go around, alternating between shamatha and vipassana, we attain a higher level of understanding of shamatha in that case, and vipassana in that case. And shamatha in that case. So, we suffer for two reasons. We suffer because of emotional instability. We suffer because of primitive beliefs about reality. The antidote to emotional instability is the practice of shamatha. So everything kind of begins with shamatha. Everything begins with just this one-pointed practice of meditation or familiarization, in which we place the mind upon an object. And we produce peace. We want to be a little careful about the emphasis is on familiarization and rather than concentration. Meditation is not concentration. Meditation is familiarization. So while we're practicing our one-pointedness, there's a light touch. There's a light touch. It's not heavy-handed. It's not. We have a tendency to get serious about ourselves, serious about our practice, serious about shamatha, serious about the rules, serious about pointing our finger at the other and saying, that was wrong. You know, I'm doing this right, you guys are doing this wrong. That's a big problem. There's none of that isn't shamatha, man. There is none of that. We gotta like Suzuki Roshi says the finger is always pointed at oneself. The finger is never pointed. You guys aren't following the rules. It's never it. It's always, how am I doing on my light touch shamatha and the other things I should be doing in terms of ethical behavior and not being an asshole, not being an egotist. you should, the sign that you're practicing meditation in the right way is you become softer. You become less aggressive, less trying to become so sure of oneself and what one's approach is. So we just have this light-handed approach to shamatha. You know, we're not practicing it to get somewhere. We're just practicing it to familiarize ourselves with the nature of gentleness. Let go of some arrogance. So you practice shamatha, and it is it's a magic. It's magic. It's just like it's science. The practice of shamatha produces peace. The practice of shamatha produces peace. It is a compounded peace which will coalesce for a while and then it'll be gone. So if you want more of that peace, except for the possible application of vipassana wisdom, the only thing you can do is to rinse and repeat again. So if you want peace in your life, you practice shamatha, you get peace in your life, and then it wears out. And there's other possibilities, as I was describing, about this cycle of shamatha and vipassana, and letting it naturally arise into greater shamatha, greater vipassana. The peace is better and the effort is more refined. It's not shamatha done with a sledgehammer. It's shamatha done with a fly wisp. You know, fly fishing as opposed to axe murder. That's something I like to. Instead of axe murder shamatha, we have like fly fishing shamatha. Just a light touch, just a lot of sensitivity, light touch. You're on the job, you know, but it's just not about, less about concentration, more just knowing thyself, you know, know thyself. It's just more like resting your mind and the nature of your mind, and less like winning at Scrabble, you know. So you can just take this piece and kind of live a better life. This is what most people do. Of the wonderful adherents of Buddhism in this Western world, but any world you could think of. Well, that's not quite true. Let's don't. The Tibetans had something else going on, you know. But there were plenty of mediocre students, I'm sure. But I don't know. We're not really. That's not what we're here to talk about. But Westerners or just starting from a tough spot. I don't know. I don't know if I want to get into all that, but